running 930 miles, taking a month out from work, taking a month away to go and live and run and travel and stuff is no small task. And what I kind of, right from the beginning of all of this, overlooked was logistically, it's actually really fucking complicated. Obviously, one of the first things that comes to mind when you're doing this is 30 miles a day for a month straight is no small feat for anybody's physical self to endure. You know, the mental aspect aside, which is something that I have to, you know, arguably train entirely differently, the physical aspect is obviously something that is going to be a huge limiting factor. Now, there are a lot of injury things that can happen from this, and that is a whole separate video in and of itself about the training that I'm doing about injury prevention. But there are also a lot of smaller things that are more arguably logistical, i.e., you know, blister prevention, ensuring that like I'm fully hydrated and things like that, because all it takes is, you know, one day I've not necessarily eaten enough or I've not drank enough, and the next day I'm cramping up, I'm feeling awful. And so there's a couple of steps that we're taking in order to do that. Obviously, while I'm running, I carry a first aid kit with me. I carry an emergency blanket. I carry blister plasters. We've got, we'll have buckets on board and, you know, be able to get ice from shops and stuff so that I can ice my feet after each run, everything like that. And it's more about making sure that we can prevent as opposed to cure an injury in advance. Obviously, you know, I'll have to tape my feet up before each run. Got specific socks that I know work well for me. I've got many pairs of trainers because I always find that each pair of trainer will cause different like spots of your feet to hurt. I love running in carbon shoes. Like I really enjoy running in Alpha Flies with the carbon plate. But the problem is with a carbon plate is it really tires your feet and ankles out. And after using that for a long period of time, it will cause blisters in bizarre places. It makes your feet feel like you've been walking on Legos for the last, you know, 3 months of your life. They have a lot of issues with it. So we have different pairs of shoes that I can change out on each day, depending on how my feet are feeling that day. We then have a bunch of emergency procedures put in place. So obviously, Hood is essentially my babysitter for this entire month. He is going to be the man that, you know, is reason to me. Obviously, there are going to be days where I get in my head a bit and, you know, I want to either have a mental breakdown and not carry on, or I have a mental breakdown and want to go even further and push myself way too hard so that the next day I can't carry on. When I'm going from point to point, I have live trackers on me. We have multiple different ways that Pud can track me. 2 different phone apps that will both work. My watch that he can track me through. We'll probably get an Apple AirTag as well that will just like attach to my running vest or whatever. So he can follow me wherever it is that I am on the route and can always find me. Obviously, he'll be in the van anyway, so if he does need to come and get me, we've deliberately set it so that I'm running predominantly on roads, and if I'm not on a road, then I'm never far from a road, because otherwise, you know, if I'm solo running and I'm 10 miles out from a road and I injure myself, it's going to be a lot harder to be retrieved. He'll have access to all of the routes anyway, so he'll see where I'll actually be running, so that he knows if I'm going this way, I'm going this way, and if I'm not there after a sort of general allotted time, probably to come back and look for me, because I'll be curled up in the corner in the freezing cold in an emergency blanket or something, I'd imagine. So yeah, he has access to all the routes and stuff from the laptops, from his phone. We've got those sorts of emergency procedures. We also have multiple emergency packs, first aid kits on board, absolutely loads of like secondaries of each thing, particularly things that I'm going to use a lot of. So, you know, I don't generally take painkillers, but we'll keep things like ibuprofen on board because obviously it's an anti-inflammatory. And just having painkillers in general during this sort of thing is going to be quite helpful. I'm going to try not to take them if I don't need to, but if there are, in case, days that we need to do that, then we need to do that. It is what it is. In my running pack, which is, once again, I'll do a video covering like all of this gear probably next week. But in my running pack, I keep an emergency kit with like a blanket, some carbs, some food, water, electrolytes, all of that sort of thing, so that I've always got something stocked up in case, you know, it is going to be an hour or two until I'm rescued if something goes wrong. So we have a lot of emergency procedures in place like that. We'll constantly have note of where the nearest hospital is in case something goes wrong. We then have like the plan that we're going to follow daily, just in sort of a rough sort of plan. Obviously, if you watched last week's video where I broke down the rough route, it's broken into legs. It's broken into 56 legs. They are from varying distances from about 9 miles all the way up to 33 miles. I'm going to be aiming to do 2 legs a day. Some days that's going to be more realistic than others, and some days I might do more than 2 legs because it might be 2 short legs. But the daily plan is essentially, I always find that the best way to warm up for running is just walking. And there's no point in me walking around in circles wherever it is that we've stayed up for the night. So to answer the question of, are you going to be running every single mile? Probably not, no. Realistically, one of the things that I'm probably going to do is start each day by just walking the first couple of miles, just to get my legs pumping again. When you're sore from running this many miles every day, the worst thing that you can do is wake up and run again. And so just getting the blood pumping to all the muscles, getting the joints loosened up, getting everything working is going to basically be how I start every day. So it's going to be wake up, you know, we're going to have a coffee, talk about the plan for the day, look at where we're going, figure out where Pud's going to meet me first, figure out where we're going to try and go to after that, try and cover like how many miles I want to cover that day, all of that sort of thing, and try and get the rough daily plan done. And then I'm going to set off, I'm going to walk for the first 2 miles. I was talking to Pud the other day, and it would probably be a case that he'll walk with me for the first mile. We'll catch up, we'll film a bunch of segments for the day while we're walking, just to break it down and break up that mental battle a little bit more, so that, you know, for the first 15 miles of my day, I'm not just out, I haven't just woke up and stamped for 2 hours straight. Then we'll probably take a break, we'll sit down, have some food. I'll transfer a load of the footage over so that I'm not filling up like phone storage, or like we'll change the batteries in whatever camera I've taken with me, all of that sort of thing. Talk about like the content plan for that sort of day. I'll take like an hour to let the lactic acid go down in my legs and recover a little bit, maybe take some recovery precautions, you know, roll out my legs or sit in the big blow up leg things, whatever it is that we end up doing at that point in time, depending on how I'm feeling. And then I'll go out and I'll continue on the next set of the day. Then obviously come the evening, we're going to be sitting down, working together to figure out all of the content, piece together that day's worth of video footage, make up all the shorts, get some dinner, make sure I'm eating enough, make sure Pud's eating enough, make sure we both feel good, try and find like leisure centers or go to, you know, someone's house if they're putting us up for the night, have a shower, make sure all the camera stuff is charged and ready for the next day, upload videos if we need to upload videos, and cover all of that as well. We then obviously have the content plan that we have to think about, because obviously this isn't just 2 blokes doing this for the sake of doing this. A big part of this is obviously raising money for charity. A big part of this is making videos around the topic. And so we have to think about that as well. In terms of the content plan, I don't know how much time we're going to have every day. If we assume that I actually run 30 miles every day, 30 miles is about 4.5 to 5 hours running for me at a decent, you know, slow pace that I can, you know, sustain for 30 miles. So if we assumed that it was 5 hours running a day, I set off at say 10 o'clock in the morning, stamp out the first 2.5 hours, take a break, take like an hour or 2 break, and then stamp out another 2.5 hours in the evening or in the afternoon. We're looking at probably finishing at about 4 or 5 o'clock each day. And that gives us enough time to sit down, go through everything and break all that down. I would like to be doing like 1 short form content piece a day, like a sort of TikTok-y reel style thing for all of the short form platforms to give like more frequent updates. And then obviously in terms of YouTube videos, every day, every 3rd day, we want to be posting like a 3-day episode that will break down obviously how far we've got, how we're feeling. It's all going to be raw as well. It's not going to be playing up for the camera. It's going to be as real as it possibly can. If I'm having a meltdown, I'm going to have a meltdown and I'm going to film all of that. Not because I want it to be some weird like attention thing and saying like, oh, you know, you're pushing it really hard, congratulations. More because I want people to see the real shit. Like, for me, I think social media and I think YouTube and just every video becomes so fake nowadays. And what we're doing is, you know, realistically something that is ridiculous for both of us. Pud's taking a month away from his family to live in a van with someone who's going to stink and be miserable every day. And I'm going to be running and I'm going to stink and I'm going to be miserable every day and I'm going to be living in a van. And, you know, that's obviously these are all very drastic changes to our lives for a month. The impact of that alone, living with somebody that you've never lived with for 30 days is probably going to be hard enough. But living with someone that you've never lived with for 30 days under these circumstances is arguably going to be even harder. And so one of the things that I want to be real about is how we're feeling. If we're fucking at each other's throats, like we're going to have that. I don't think we will be. You know, Pud and I are very like same. We're very both mellow around each other. I don't think that's going to be the issue. But I do think that obviously in terms of like the mental battle of all of this, there are going to be a lot of struggles. There are going to be, you know, the missing home aspect, missing home comforts, having a big bed, being able to get up and make a coffee without having to turn on a gas stove and open the van door and freeze first thing in the morning. You know, there are going to be lots of things that I do think we miss a lot, and it's something that I want to cover and I want to talk about. In terms of that, in that side of it, you know, I really want to make sure that that is something that we are properly covering.